Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel where we bring you on our adventures and show you how to make things. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this reusable, reversible string tie mask. You will need 2 pieces of fabric. I'm using organic cotton cut into 6" by 9" rectangles. 4 20" long strings with a knot tied at one end to prevent fraying. I'm using this clothesline from Home Depot, but you can use any type of string that's durable and easy to sew. First, place the 2 wrong sides facing each other. This is especially important if your fabric is printed like this floral piece. We're then going to be placing the strings at the corners and sewing them in place around the edges. I'm starting with my number 2 setting with a seam allowance of about 1/4 inch. Figure out which long side you want to be the bottom of your mask and start sewing in the middle. Once you get to your first corner, place the frayed end of your first string on the inside right before the corner with about 1/4 inch sticking out. Continue to sew over the string. Repeat this on the other 3 corners, making sure to keep the string out of the way while you're sewing, pulling them to the beginning point. When you've completed the last corner, sew to the end, leaving about a 3" hole where the strings are hanging out. It doesn't matter how big the hole is because you will be sewing it up later, but having a bigger hole will make it easier to flip it inside out, but leaving a smaller hole will make it easier to sew later. So it's up to you. Now that we have all 4 strings sewn in place, it's time to flip it inside out. Now that our mask is flipped the right way, we'll take it over to the ironing board and press the edges down. You'll want to make sure the fabric around the hole is folded so that it lines up with the rest of the sewn fabric before pressing it. Pressing the edges will make it easier to sew in the next part. Now that our mask is nice and pressed, next we're going to make a little pocket for the wire nose piece. First, fold the mask in half and measure about 2 inches from the fold, and place a pin to serve as a marker. Place a pin on the other side as well. Cut a 4" piece of wire. I'm using crafting pipe cleaners because they're easy to find and to work with. Make sure to bend the ends a few times to ensure that the pointy part won't stick out. Now it's time to sew the pocket. We'll start out by placing the first pin under the needle to get it lined up where we need it to be. I'm using a seam allowance of 4/8 and placing my seam guide to keep everything straight and even. Take the pin out and start sewing until you get to the next pin. This line we just sewed is the top of our wire pocket. Remove the pin and turn the mask to sew down about 3 strokes. I do this by hand for accuracy. Then turn the mask to sew a line back the other way, leaving the end opened. Once we've sewn the 3 sides of our pocket, take a seam ripper if you have one, or if you don't, some tiny scissors will work, like these, to cut a small incision at the opened end of the pocket. Work the pipe cleaner into the pocket until it's completely out of the way of the incision. Once our pipe cleaner is securely in the pocket, we're going to sew up the hole. I'm using the zigzag and going over it 3 times. Now that our nose piece is complete, we will now create our folds. With the bottom of the mask facing away from you, fold over your first fold and pin it on both sides to keep it in place. Do the same for the bottom fold. I'm making 2 folds, but you can do however many you would like. Now that our folds are pinned in place, we'll start sewing at the bottom of the mask in the middle with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Keep sewing all the way around the mask, making sure to take the pins out as you go and lift the foot when going over the folds to make sure that they stay in place. When sewing the top of the mask, make sure the folds are out of the way so that they don't get caught up in the seam. And make sure to push the folds back in place before sewing down the second short side. When you're finished sewing all the way around, we're going to sew another line all the way around the outer edge of the mask, just like the first line we just made, to make sure everything is super secure. What I do is, instead of starting a new line, I just turn the mask, sew downward 1 or 2 turns, and then turn the mask to sew around the very edge. Turning the mask instead of starting a new line like this saves time, but you can do it however you want. Continue sewing around the outer edge of the mask. Once you're finished sewing, check to make sure everything looks good and secure. And you're ready for the grocery store. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tutorials and travel videos. Stay safe!